Hey guys, Danjix here, back with some more Dragon Age 4 news. So BioWare recently came out with a behind the scenes at BioWare video showing that they are, in fact, working on the game with not only concept art, but actual information about the title. It's time to break it all down, so let's get into it. First, the team mentions that they wanted to explore the idea of powerlessness. Powerlessness. What happens when you don't have power? What happens when the people in charge aren't willing to address the issues, which is kind of relevant right now. A story that focuses on the people around you and the friends and family you make along the way. Choices will drive you and the consequences can be dire. Ultimately, your team can die. Yes, you can lose your friends and teammates in this iteration. Powerlessness is not typically a theme in the Dragon Age series. In fact, in the first, you were a Grey Warden rallying legions to. Yes, you start off kind of weak, sorta, but you are a hero in the end. Second, the champion of Kirkwall. You always felt like you had something to do to help. And in Inquisition, you led the Inquisition from the start. So this iteration may have you fighting an impossible situation against the Dreadwolf, your old ally Solas. There's no doubt he'll be the main antagonist, and finally, in the Dragon Age series, we're getting one that we truly care about, for better or worse. It's confirmed that Dorian, your buddy from Inquisition and a Tevinter mage, will be joining you in 4. You're good friends by the end of Inquisition, so it'll be interesting to see how the player dynamic changes in 4. Are you starting a new character or continuing with the Inquisitor? I hope continuing, as the relationship between you and Solas will drive so much conflict and tension. Having Dorian join makes sense, as the game will be traveling to the Tevinter Imperium for the first time in the series. The devs more or less have free reign creatively, and it shows in the concept art you're about to see. So voiceover recording has already begun, which means that the script has to kind of be in the final stages or complete. This is extremely positive news. We saw some work done by the great Gareth David Lloyd for Solas, and I can't wait to experience his performance. However, we get short glimpses of 2 new characters.
No, it's okay. That's the good kind of rumble.
Balara, voiced by Lee Young-hun, which from the voice seems like a bubbly companion, and Davrin by Ike Amadi, which seems like a powerful Grey Warden character.
Nobody dies on my watch. For the Wardens!
We'll have to do a bit of assuming with who they are in the concept art. Speaking of which, let's jump in. First, we see an Aias working on a rocky mountainside. Excuse me while I break this down for 10 minutes. This is Dan from the future. I cut the whole thing, so let's move on. Next, we have some concept art of a city and chapel by the water. Tevinter isn't going to be simply a desert. I imagine there will be lush places like this to explore in Dragon Age 4, and we have lots of concept art coming up to prove that. Well, this isn't so lush and it doesn't illustrate my point, but I guess there will also be some dry ancient tomes of power to explore that will no doubt offer you ways of furthering the plot. Probably need some kind of elvish key to break through that lock. Speak friend and enter. Next, we have another angle of the city, and I love the architecture. BioWare have stated they love the creative freedom they have creating this world, and I hope it shows as brilliantly as this concept, as it has a very gothic and powerful feel to it, which is not surprising as Tevinter is known for slavery, so expect some very rich and powerful areas, but no doubt the complete inverse as well. Next, we see concept art for some of the characters underwater treasure hunting, with a chest open and something glinting in the sunlight. The characters are also escaping hostiles as there are arrows following them. We see Dorian and what looks to be Josephine with long hair, though it could be a new character. Maybe the new Balara, as the model kind of suits the voice. There is also an unknown redheaded woman in the background. However, this dude looks a whole lot like Solas. Is he with the party? Is he chasing them? Is it not Solas? It's hard to tell with the pixels we get. All we know for sure is Dorian is with us. Here we have some more concept of what is potentially more teammates. The man up front could be the Grey Warden Davrin, though his voice doesn't really suit his character. Could also be art for the player control character, as he has held up his arm to represent the Hold command, like he is leading the team, and we see a fully armored knight in a few concept arts in the future. Behind him is the redheaded woman we saw in the water. Both characters are handsome and cute respectively in the art, so let's see if that changes at all over development. I'm not sure it will. In the background is what seems like a Tevinter mage. She's lighting the way with a fire spell. I can't tell the age from the pixels, but she seems more mature. Next to her is a Qunari with no eye patch and scars, which means it's not Iron Bull, and since the Inquisition DLC, let's just say they shouldn't invest resources. We can't tell what the characters are doing, but it seems to be the same underground area as before. I guess friend was spoke. Here we have a different region, a castle on a cliff face, which is very Dragon Age. Here it is from another angle. We can see the Tevinter desert landscape with wind-eroded rocks similar to the Californian or Mexican desert areas. Here we see what seems to be mages using magic to manipulate similar metal they're using for their armor. Will there be metal bending in Dragon Age 4? Maybe the team was inspired by Avatar. We can see the archer firing a literal bolt from his bow, and the recoil is blowing pieces of metal around. I'm not sure what these tendrils are, if it's being blocked by the shield or is it coming from the shield itself, but it seems very red lyrium hostile. Perhaps these are temple guardians of some kind. Now this is an interesting piece of concept, kind of like a magical force is suspending the rocks. Clouds are low, mountains are tall, floating airships. Maybe this is an area we use to transport to another, kind of like World of Warcraft travel points. Here is a captivating view of a city in Tevinter. I feel like they were inspired by Aladdin here, using ovals and circles for the top of their buildings, but using that long shot of a palace in the background like the opening of the movie. The city has canals and a Middle Eastern inspired architecture, which normally doesn't go together, so it'll be interesting to see how this turns out. I'm excited because it certainly has more depth than Dragon Age 2's awful city. Now we see an in-game shot of a mountainside entrance to a tomb or explorable underground area. Doesn't quite look dwarfish, but it is. What would be Dragon Age without an underground area? Then we see the tree we saw in the teaser video. It looks like a gravesite with urns littered around a dark, ominous figure. Glowing red lyrium to the side doesn't bode well for this area at all. Now we see a monster. I want to say an adolescent male dragon, and that would be a safe bet, but I don't want to have pie on my face later when they announce that this is a new companion named George and he's a mutated demon dark mage. I hope we can expect a lot of new and interesting creatures, and this is just the beginning. Now, we see what's inside the mountain entrance, a distinct lack of furniture for one, but yes, it's looking more dwarfish. Perhaps this is a base for the characters. Mountainside with a dwarf statue. Yes, I think we can now assume the people who built this area were in fact mutant duck people. Now we see the class divide, a rich, well-fed woman being carried by slaves, one of which has either lost his handle on the cart or has had it taken off him. They look well dressed for slaves, and the sultry, what I assume is a woman on the left, shows the kind of fashion we can expect in this Arabian Night themed area. Remember that first city we saw in the concept art? Well, this is that at night. Beautiful running water and rich flora along with some characters in the foreground. Here is the what happens if you don't have power concept art. How you're meant to feel as the character against overwhelming odds. Obviously, this is just a concept, but David seems tired, surrounded by his fallen allies, addressing the Goliath facing him down. Here's a poorer section of the city, a market or bazaar. We see a ton of interesting characters, and the longer you look, the more you see. A mage, more interested in her scrolls and looking where she's going. A mage riding a chair with legs shaped like a hand while shaking a goblet. A woman carrying a rock on her head. A monster caged next to a head cage. A vulture caged, holding a cage. Cageception. There's even a bunch of tiny walking candles bearing scrolls around. The knight here has one scrunched up. They seem to love their information for some reason, but what we do know is there's going to be some interesting characters in Tevinter. Here we have an action shot of some crew members. There isn't much to say as we can't tell much from this concept, but we do seemingly have a wide variety this time. It's unsure if you can control these or if they're NPCs or if they're enemies. A ragtag 8, which would be much better than what we got in Inquisition. However, we don't see Dorian here, and we saw him with other characters, so we can assume there's going to be a lot more characters in the game, or at least a lot more NPCs. I'm most interested in the guy on the far right, obviously. What's going on there? Also, is that Enzo? Look, it's a female horny boy as well, which we see again here. You can jump back and forth between the pictures, but the other three don't seem to be in the one prior. So how many characters have they concepted? I really wonder, as characters and friends seems to be the focus of Dragon Age 4, and will that mean more than ever? Or will that mean simply more NPCs? What is Dragon Age without dragons and knights? Here we have one protecting a mother and child from dragon fire. What a brave knight. Here we have a duelist with crows. I hope this is a playable character, but since we haven't seen her with the art yet, it's probably going to be an antagonist. A cool as heck one though. Then we have Solas the Dreadwolf, with an actual direwolf next to him. I won't dive into the story here, but expect this man to be truly terrifying to his enemies. Without lifting a finger, he turns beings, powerful beings, into stone almost instantly. No doubt you won't be able to face him in the conventional way. This will be the most powerful enemy or potential ally you've ever faced by far. He's essentially a god killer and you're immortal. Truly, this will be a David versus Goliath story, but there is more depth to this one. He isn't rage or anger like the antagonists of the past. He has sorrow, he has thoughts, he's a person at the end of the day, even though he is a god technically. He doesn't want to destroy the world. Hopefully, I can get through to my best bud. Some models of his face here seems much narrower than before, bigger brain, so to speak. Whoa, chill, Solas. I guess you can piss him off. Well, of course you can. You're trying to stop his plans. Sadly, we can't gather much intel here as only the named asset Solas' head is written. Half of the people want to kill him and half want to marry him according to BioWare, and some want to do both. I disagree. I don't want to kill him or marry him. I just want to save my buddy, and I'm sure that a lot of you are the same. So stop pouting, Solas. I'm coming. So next we see some motion capture artists. Probably an undead, demon or goblin-like creature running there. Some animations on a narrow path as well. Then we have some extremely early footage of combat. A placeholder enemy shooting a placeholder spell to test the character's ability to move around and dodge. Then we have something more refined. A beautiful looking knight in armor, shield raised, sword prepped, casting a shield wall spell in front of him. The effects look breathtaking, and I hope this is the kind of armor we'll see in-game alongside those kind of effects. Now, we start seeing some enemies. This is an interesting monster of the sea. From art before, it seems like we might be spending quite a bit of time in the water. Here we see a red lyrium skeleton brandishing a huge axe in a dark setting. We see a giant statue in the background that reminds me of the Lord of the Rings. Here's a spider walking with animated arms. No doubt they wanted to test how it would react to that barrel in the way, but they cut the footage off before it. How it kind of looked climbing over it, but maybe it didn't look too good, so they didn't show it. But most importantly, why does this thing have arms? I don't know, man. I'm Australian, so I don't have any fear of spiders, but in fact, actually, I've got tons of spider stories if you want to talk about them, but this is just creepy. Imagine walking around the corner of a dark dungeon and seeing this thing holding and eating a sandwich casually. Like, oh, hey, sorry, it was lunchtime. Okay, well, let's just move on. Then we see more testing combat. The character raising a shield to block projectiles. It seems like an odd mechanical hose, though this one might just be another placeholder enemy. Now, this is just creepy tentacles moving what seems to be a testicle around. Not much to say here, except no doubt we're going to some weird places and doing some weird stuff. It's Dragon Age after all. Red Lyrium Cave, yep. And here we are again with the character defending against a creature slithering from the darkness. I've got zero idea of what this is right now, but it can't be good. There will be icy areas and mountaintops. You can even talk to a mountain. This one looks kind of friendly, right? Hi, buddy. I hope you can help us instead of crush us. Here are the statues we saw in the red lyrium skeleton's background. This area will be filled with undead, no doubt. Here we have the mountain again, then bam, shield, slam, spell. Looking nice, but no doubt will need to be refined. Here we see the player character in a temple. Looks kind of like they're ready for a fight, maybe with that guy in the background. Then we seem to have some kind of Tomb Kings harvesting a dead dragon. Can we expect dragon mummies in Dragon Age 4? Borrowing from Egypt makes sense, and I hope we see more of these Tomb King style enemies. Here we see a Dune-like desert enemy. Doesn't quite look like the team is going to survive this one. If boss fights are on this scale, I'll be impressed. I don't know who this is, but buddy, I think you should give back what you stole and help them put out the fights. What a jerk. It adds to the idea that there is a focus on watery areas in this title. So, That's all the information I have for you today. What do you think? Does this make you more excited for the future? The game is still a long ways off, but at least it gives us something to look forward to. Thank you so much for watching, and keep your eyes peeled for all the BioWare and RPG information you'll ever need. Ciao, friends.